and set benchmarks and achieve new heights. With this, I would also take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Amit Nandu, who is leading the Alumni Committee of H.R.College. Amit sir is also the Associate Professor of the Department of Accountancy. His regular insights and information regarding our alumnus has led to stay connected and associated with them for future collaborations.
Before we start, we would like to share a glimpse of H.R.College activities.
Yeah. I hope the screen is visible.
Yes.
Yes.
You're a sky full of stars. I'm gonna give you my heart. 'Cause you're a sky full of stars. 'Cause you light up the path. I don't care, go on and tear me apart. I don't care if you do. Cause in the sky full of stars, I think I saw you. You're a sky full of stars. I wanna die in your arms. Cause you get lighter the more it gets dark. I'm gonna give you my heart. I don't care, go on and tear me apart. I don't care if you do. Cause in the sky full of stars, I think I see you. I think I see
Thank you, Saurav. Uh, we will start with a brief introduction of our speakers. Mr. Jahan is the co-founder and director of strategy and collaboration at Boheco. His vision and steadfast commitment are the reason for the exponential growth of Boheco. Mr. Jahan has completed his master's in advertising and sales marketing from our college. He is also recognized in Forbes 30 under 30 list. Mr. Chirag is a co-founder and director of marketing and HR at Boheco. His prudence, analytical skills, and great insights into sales have taken Boheco to a new zest. Mr. Chirag had completed his master's in accounting and business management. To speak about Boheco, it is India's first $1 million cannabis and hemp company. It is an agro-based enterprise incorporated in 2013 that has set out to reimagine the future of Indian agriculture and sustainable living with hemp as their lens.
Now I request Mr. Jahan and Mr. Chirag to take over and inspire and guide all of us by taking through their amazing journey of building Boheco and how their college learning helped them build this massive company.
Great. First of all, thank you so much to everyone for offering their time. I think, if you give me 1 second, please, I'll just load this up. There you go. Yeah. Right. So very good afternoon. First of all, very big thank you to everybody part of the eCell organizing team. And of course, it would have been great to have Mrs. Ramchandani and Dr. Punjabi and Dr. Nandu join us, and we understand our prior commitments. But nonetheless, I think we're very grateful and thank all HR students to take time out on a weekend, keeping in mind we're living in a day and age where content is at the tip of your finger, and for you to actually take time out to listen to the journey and the story of a couple of other fellow, I would say, HR alumnus and strugglers back in the day as well. It's a great pleasure to be here. And of course, we're really looking forward to using this platform to share a bit more about our growth and our story and journey right from the days of early HR, early days from junior and senior college of HR. I think the best way to do this is understand a bit more of our background. You see, all of us, there were 7 of us co-founders at Boheco. All of us were in H.R.College, most of us from our junior college days. And when we were in college, we spent a lot of time, as much time in classroom as we did out of it. But he always kind of spent it for a proactive reason. For example, Chirag himself was, I believe, the president of the Rotary Club of HR up to a certain point, and we had different clubs. And in fact, I guess timing was a key part of it. When we were in our senior colleges as well, we were fortunate enough, under the stewardship of Dr. Shahani, we had our Golden Jubilee celebration where about 30 of us junior and senior college kids came together, who Dr. Shani appointed to actually take charge of the entire year, set up dialogue series, set up events and never been before, and really make HR's name shine in the best way possible. In fact, one of the activities that really helped us learn, and especially me, and I'll probably bounce it over to Chirag quickly also for a second, was this interesting activity that Dr. Shahani told a team of 7 of us students. I think all of us were in senior college at that time, that look, I'll give you 30 days or 45 days. I want you to go climb up on the ladders, go into all the dusty drawers and shelves at the top, the topmost cupboards on every single floor of HR. And I want you to, yes. And
Yes, so we can hear you.
So, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. As I was saying, that back in the day, Dr. Shahani essentially empowered us to say, look, 7 of you, I want you to come together, sort of a ragtag bunch of us from different parts of senior college. And I want you to go up into the dusty cupboards of HR. And I want you to bring down those books, and I want you to digitize HR's alumnus records. And I want you to create an event around this and let's work together. And that was sort of a breaking point, because you can imagine spending 45 days of your summer holidays actually climbing up ladders across college, which is of course so hot, extremely hot at times during the summers, and actually going through everyone's alumni record, whether you're talking about Kumar Mangalam Birla, you're talking about Karan Johar, Sunil Shetty, Aftab Shivdasani, you name it, we found their records, and we created a list of, I think, 46,899 alumnus, and had an event to actually award some of the special alumnus who've gone to achieve something on in their life. And for that was sort of a great moment of legacy as well. And I think what I'll do is I'll bounce over to Chirag, who can, of course, share some insights from his days at Rotrack, and then I'll come back into taking us through a story as well.
Right. So thanks, Jahan. Thanks for bouncing it over. And Entrepreneurship Cell, thank you so much for having us here. Of course, it's quite cliche to say, but it's definitely our pleasure to address all the students that, when we were in your shoes, we used to look up to alumni, and really hope we could provide something of value to you today that you actually take back and get inspired with, right? So again, my introduction's done, but my name is Chirag, and I was in H.R.College when I joined. It was the 17th of July, 2006. I very vividly remember that day because, it was the first time I walked through the gates of H.R.College. And honestly speaking, those were the years that really transformed me. I have no guilt or shame in admitting the fact that I am the person I am because of H.R.College. And I think Jahan and all of us truly stick by that fact, because it really did add those years to our life, and in every possible way, right? Whether you're talking about learning, whether you're talking about understanding how team dynamics work, or for that matter, trying to make your own name in college by doing everything possible that you can and contribute to the college's journey. So I think it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you everyone who's organized this, and even just take this moment to recognize the contributions of professors such as Mr. Amit Nandu and Mr. Naveen Punjabi, who would have definitely played a role in bringing us here today. So those guys, honestly, back, I'm talking about 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, they were really fantastic professors. In fact, had it not been for them, a large part of us would not have been the way we are, because they just give you the freedom to speak, right, and do everything that you want to in college. And honestly, those things help, because whether it's Jahan, whether it's myself, and the balance founders who are still very close-knit as a founder group at Boheco, we all come from the same college. We all have worked under the same leadership of Dr. Shahani, who actually gave us the kind of canvas that she did to literally take our lives in any direction we wanted. But of course, through the years, there are many people in college that would, either be playing video games or, hanging out at different coffee shops. But honestly, we weren't those kind of people. We were in college almost 12 hours a day, trying to mobilize events, trying to create projects. And just my particular time in college was extremely affiliated to the Rotaract Club of H.R.College, because people say we did BCom and MCom. I regard it as we did RCom, right? Because I literally throughout my 7 years of college, which is 2006 to 13, because we did a master's as well, I found myself only contributing to the Rotaract Club of H.R.College, and it was a spectacular journey. So from here, I think we'll of course leave a lot to, we'll try and keep this as casual as possible, but we'll leave a lot to the question answer session as well. So if you would like, Jahan, should we jump right into?
Absolutely. I think the best jumping off point is a little lesson Dr. Shani left us with. She said, you really succeed in life when you combine passion with compassion. And that really stirred us. And as Chirag mentioned, we are part of a lot of clubs, associations, one of which was called SIFE, Students in Free Enterprise. I think you guys may know it as Enactus today. Just give me a second. So back in the day when it was SIFE, we had institutionalized a project called Project Chirag, which of course has gained a lot of fame over time. And during those days when we used to travel for Project Chirag to actually bring solar rural electrification into rural parts of India by charging nominal fees for its production and manufacturing by disabled populations in certain parts of Maharashtra, one of the interesting things that we realized, one of the things that we interestingly realized is whether we travel to rural Maharashtra or Rajasthan or Uttarakhand or Punjab, whichever part we travel to, custom, culture, language, food, everything changed. But one thing we noticed constant everywhere was the cannabis plant. Now, when I talk about cannabis, I refer to a plant you probably know as ganja, you know as charas, you know as bhang, and I think is amongst popular folklore, especially amongst Mumbai colleges. Everyone's heard about it at the very least. But our curiosity took us in a very different dimension. We looked at all of this cannabis growing wherever we were, and we said, okay, hold on. Is there a resource that is hidden here that maybe has greater value than we think? Now, around the same time, I traveled to Australia to meet with my family, my cousins, and we were traveling across rural West Australia, and we encountered a town, a very interesting town called Margaret River, where there's prosperity and development, even though towns next to it were practically bordering on the fringes of bankruptcy. And I was curious enough, I asked a few locals, what do you do differently? And they said, we do two things differently. We grow grapes for wine, and today Margaret River is one of the top wine counties in the world, and we grow hemp, that is cannabis, for everything else. That got me curious. So I asked more, and they said, we use the fiber from the plant for our surfboards. We use the same fiber to make our t-shirts and shirts. We use the seed oil from this plant for different kind of consumption purposes. And we use it for cosmetic purposes. And that really struck off a light bulb because we had similar stories back in when we were traveling. When we went into villages in Punjab, we realized they were using the seed oil of bhang to cure stretch marks post-pregnancy. Or then villages in Uttarakhand or Himachal, for generations, they've been using the fiber from this natural growing cannabis to sew sweaters or shoes or jumpers to keep them warm in winter. Or they were using the seed or bhang ki beej in their chutneys as a nutritional snack. So this was generational knowledge, but it had never really percolated all the way down. And that got us really curious. And at the end of, during our sort of site days, we said, okay, hold on. Is there value here? Or should we, after graduating from college, rather than making sort of a Hollywood or Bollywood pipe dream where immediately we take the plunge, let's build our chops. Let's build our working skills. So after we all graduated, we all spent a couple of years in different, I would say, white collar and sort of corporate avenues. I had worked on building another startup. Chirag had worked at Direct Eye, one of the top advertising, web and digital advertising firms in the world. A couple of others worked in audit for one of the big four in finance and audit. We had one of our guys who's one of our founders who also went ahead and got his degrees in law. Somebody else worked in packaging. So we all worked in interests that we knew we shared and passion that we shared for a common purpose. And back in, after about 2011, when we graduated, 2013, 2012, we all came back and we said, okay, this is the time for us to explore such an idea. This is the new generation of the startup wave, startup movement. This is the time to at least test the waters to see how far we can go. The first place we went, and the three broad areas we went into, was the law, that's policy, was research around the plant, and the commercialization of the business around building a hemp company or a cannabis company in India. But I think to take a step back, the better place to start would be around cannabis itself. You see, when we speak of the cannabis plant, or we refer to ganja, or we refer to charas, or we refer to bhang, it's important to understand what we're really talking about. So when we speak of the cannabis family, there are broadly three types of plants. There's a sativa, there's an indica, and there's a rudralis. Indica, of course, being named after the country India, where the original seeds first came from. But you see, there's a big difference in how these plants are used. As of today, there are almost 45 to 50 countries, including India, at a very primitive level, that use the cannabis plant family for three types of applications. There is the industrial use, where the fiber is used for making textiles, making automobile composites, nanomaterials, and a whole wide variety of uses, which we tell you about, as well as the seed that grows from the plant, which is used in cosmetics, food, nutrition, and a wide variety of other industrial applications. The second application is the medical use of this plant, which is, of course, much more commonly known today and is very well known in North America, Europe, and I mean, places like China, Australia, and especially more so in India, especially with the media cycles. And that's where the flower and the leaf of the cannabis species, whether a sativa or an indica, refer to the medical benefit of different chemical compounds that exist in these flowers and leaves called cannabinoids. So many people would have heard of THC. THC is one of 100 different compounds within the flower and the leaf of the cannabis plant family, but this is the only one that actually gets you high. So this is what gives you the nasha, the intoxicating effect that everyone talks about, whether you're talking about munchies, whether you're talking about sitting in home watching cartoons, or a wide variety of kind of stereotypes. But there is a different realm to this as well. And that's where the point of differentiation comes. If a plant is low in THC or narcotic value, it has majorly industrial application. But if it's high in THC or narcotic value, it has great medical application for pain relief, etc., that we'll talk about, but also has potential for abuse. And that's where the law comes in. And that's where the flower itself is classified as a narcotic in India. And that was a sort of a great origin point to help understand cannabis a little more in detail. You see, the problem in the day and age we live in is, as we've learned through lockdown and as many people have been reading, we're facing a big storm of health in India. Whether we're talking about cancer, a wide variety of cases, we have a couple of million cases registered every single year, where pain and palliative care, that is end of life care, becomes extremely important. We're talking about stress and anxiety, where I believe almost every single one of us, whether Gen X, millennials, whether elder generations of populations, have seen stress and anxiety levels go through the roof. And of course, areas like arthritis, where 1 in 3 people or 1 in 4 people in India actually has arthritis or different forms of it today. And it's important to understand that these are maybe hidden problems that we may face. But one of the intriguing lessons we learned about cannabis, and I'm sure many people through all of your readings would have realized, that the medical effect of cannabis is broadly in 2 broad areas. And of course, many other areas that seem to be floating on the internet and Facebook, etc. But broadly in 2 areas. Number 1, it helps manage pain. And number 2, it helps manage your stress. Pain comes in through THC that we talked about earlier, but stress comes in through other chemical compounds, one of which called CBD, that many people would have heard about or read about, especially in the recent news, that actually does not have any psychoactive effects. It doesn't get you high technically, or in any way possible, but it actually helps you manage stress and be a lot more calmer. And it's all the rage, all the trends in coffee shops and cafes and across the United States and Europe today, where you have CBD lattes, you have CBD gummies, you have chocolates, and a wide spectrum of kind of uses of this as well. But that really brings us to, is cannabis more than just the binary of helps me with pain and helps me with stress? And what we learned over the last 7.5 years, it indeed is. But through our process or journey, we learned it's about educating and creating the awareness, the same awareness that we've generated. Whether we're talking about all of these different cannabis compounds called cannabinoids, THC or CBD or CBG or CBN, recently discovered ones, helping illnesses across the world or helping illnesses across India, where today in the United States, you have FDA approved drugs that are helping young children who had 200 epileptic seizures a day, after consuming a cannabis flower extract that's basically an oil with high in CBD, are going down to 2 seizures a year in practically no time. And it really speaks wonders for something very paradoxical, that a plant has grown historically in our backyard in India for the longest possible time. But we are the ones who have demonized it over the last few decades while the world is optimized. And that really got us thinking that, how exactly do we create the awareness, whether it's amongst researchers, doctors working in clinical studies, actually developing seeds to grow these high THC or CBD plants, or is it working with the regulators, or is it even working on the business consumer patient side of things? And that really led us to the journey back in 2013 when we bootstrapped ourselves. When I mean bootstrap, I mean basically we put in all the savings we had earned through our corporate jobs, and we said, look, let's take a punt. Let's take a try at this, because if we don't do it now, we'll regret this for the rest of our life. Even if we failed, it's okay. We can always try again, and we can try something new. But since 2013 to today, our journey has been an enormous learning lesson. And I believe HR was a wonderful breeding ground to prepare us for such life lessons, where life isn't always necessarily fair, where you have to take the long cut. You don't have choices for the shortcut anymore. And we started in 2013 as the first ever cannabis company in India's pre or post-independence history. And we realized gradually over the last 7.5 years, we built some of the best relationships with the policymakers and regulators, with some of the top R&D institutions. We're getting some of the first licenses to actually grow cannabis officially on research licenses in different parts of India. We actually built a seed bank of almost 250 different cannabis varieties we collected from almost 15 states in India and gone into the rural hinterlands of these different states. And of course, we're very fortunate in the course of our journey. We received the backing from the likes of Mr. Ratan Tata, Mr. Rajan Anandan, who's director of Sequoia Capital and formerly was with Google, as well as with IIM Ahmedabad and Singularity Holdings, while along with sort of a whole plethora and a whole spectrum of others as well. But to take you through what we realized established our advantage over 7.5 years is, as I mentioned to you, we're one of the few, and rather one of the only companies in the country that actually has licenses to grow legal cannabis. And this is precisely the fruit of the offering. But the goal behind this activity was strategic to think long. And that's what a college like HR prepared us for. Not to always look at the short-term wins, look at the long-term wins. Now, I'll give you an example of what I mean here. Why are we growing cannabis here? We're growing it to breed the seed in such a way that the farmer can actually eventually grow this crop legally under a licensed policy by working with regulators to create such policies for licensing, such that he'd be able to provide such material to industry to help grow the industry in turn. So this is thinking for the larger value of the industry value chain. And of course, along the way, as mentioned, we're very fortunate. And I remember very clearly, it took us, a lot of people ask us about our journey to receive the mentorship and the investment from Mr. Tata. It was a long and arduous journey, but one made fruitful and beneficial by actually getting the privilege to spend great time with such a distinguished gentleman and have his strategic insight and learning, where, you know, when you walk into a room and you think you may know an idea, there is always somebody who's legendary and who has kind of the foresight to know it even better than you ever did. And surprisingly enough, and sort of not unsurprisingly enough, that was Mr. Tata in a nutshell. And interestingly enough, that wasn't the first time we met him. First time we actually met him was at H.R.College, which I think we'll tell you about as we go along as well. And through our journey, as I mentioned, that when we started with nobody's fathers or uncles or grandfathers being related to anybody in power or anybody in politics. Everything we did on our own accord, on our own merit. We spent hours outside the rooms of chief ministers to get meetings with them, where if you have a look, a couple of our founders, Sumit and Dilzad, was with the former chief minister, Harish Rawat of Uttarakhand, which became the first state in the country to create a policy to allow farmers to grow industrial grade hemp or the cannabis plant, which we had assisted them in the process to develop such policies. And if you look closely, that bandi or kurta he's wearing is actually made out of basically our hemp kurta that we had gifted him as well. Similarly, even working with institutions in Jammu and Kashmir focused on medical research of the plant. Here you see Dr. Jitendra Singh and Dr. Harshvardhan actually inaugurating one of the facilities which he used. And in fact, later on that year, Dr. Jitendra Singh was the chief guest at the only medical cannabis conference in the country, organized by Boheco, which had participation from him and his capacity at the Prime Minister's office, as well as the Drug Controller Generals of India, several ministry officials, doctors from AIMS, Tata Memorial, NIMHANS, and a wide spectrum of others. We worked very closely with almost 7 state governments so far, whether we're talking Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Manipur, even Maharashtra, Goa, Odisha, and a wide spectrum of others, on helping them create policies allowing the exploration of the cannabis plant, whether we're talking for industrial or medical purposes, whether we're talking to start with research or to begin with commercializing with the farmer groups. And these are just a couple of snippets of some of our meetings and encounters with some of our distinguished, I would say, bureaucrats and sort of political machinery. And what I'll do is I'll pause here and I'll kind of hand it over to Chirag to take you through the rest of the journey as well.
Right. So I'm just trying to wonder, and if someone from the E-Cell can actually tell me, do you think that there has been a spike in attendance today just because we are cannabis entrepreneurs, or is it typically lower than normal? What is it?
I think there has been a spike in the attendance.
Okay, great.
They're very interested. People are joining in right now also.
Super. So in fact, everyone should know that Mumbai and Delhi are the two largest cannabis markets even in India, and I think Jahan can speak to you about that. Of course, we're talking about the illicit use of cannabis, but that is exactly what we saw, right? And back in the day, I mean, from coming out of a college as glorious as H.R.College, which gives you so much of the bragging rights, what we really did understand in the process is how to view what seems to be like a problem in this country as an opportunity. And that's when we turned it around on its head and actually launched, so rather incorporated Boheco in the year 2013. Now, just give you a little bit of the journey of what we've been able to do in the lifetime of Boheco as a company. As Jahan mentioned, this was literally a hypothesis. If there was anybody in the country that wanted to start the first cannabis or hemp company in this country, we said that the seven of us should be those guys. That's exactly why we jumped out of our jobs within, say, a 12 to 18 month timeline, picked up a little bit of the corporate world experience and came together in January 2013 to start this. The very first few products that we took to market were, of course, as we were bootstrapping our way through, it was to do with the textiles, and I'll come to that in a bit. But if in a one line explanation, one needs to understand what Bombay Hemp Company is. Boheco is today a direct-to-consumer, vertically integrated health and wellness cannabis company, right? So, of course, over the years, we've understood that health, nutrition, and wellness is where the most amount of value lies. And of course, our first value proposition as the seven of us was to ensure that roti, kapra, makan, and dawai, all out of one crop. So whether it's food, clothing, shelter, medicine, all out of one crop is what Boheco should take to market, right? So, of course, when we started off, we worked with what was available, but today we are a company that prides in taking to market extremely value-enhancing products in the health, nutrition, and wellness category. I'll tell you as we go along. I'll tell you what exactly we mean by that. John, if you could just, yeah. So when it comes to health and wellness, we primarily have a lot of over-the-counter products, products that you and I can just go purchase online. Now, one would ask, where exactly would you be able to purchase this? It's on bohecolife.com. We're living in a digital-first world. Most of our strategies as far as marketing and communications is online. So if you go to bohecolife.com, you can actually procure any of these products. These products specialize in healing or providing relief, which is why, and they also made from the leaf of the cannabis plant, because there are 4 parts of the cannabis plant. One of them is the seed, one of them is the leaf, one of them is the fiber. So this is, as the name suggests, canna relief. It's from the leaf of the plant, and this has actually got therapeutic properties and clinically and anecdotally properties that actually remediate arthritis pain and nurture your skin. So going, there's one product which is right in the center, which is used for chronic illnesses. So a lot of people that might have heard this flying rumor that, you know, cannabis is something that can help in cancer treatment. It definitely is the truth. So we have a product that can actually help as far as chronic illnesses are concerned, as well as aid in sleep and to a certain level aid even as far as anxiety, depression, etc. is concerned. So that particularly is a prescription-based product that we have. So we have Ayurvedic doctors. So all of these products are Ayurvedic in nature, and we have Ayurvedic doctors on our panel that actually prescribe, and you know, only under medical supervision can you consume the cannabis oil. Whereas as far as application-based products are concerned, they're absolutely over the counter. So you can actually go to a chemist and pick them up as well. Moving on, we have a whole cannabis-based lifestyle at Boheco. So whether it is 8 a.m. in the morning, everyone's up, wants to have like, I mean, we're typically tuned to eating maybe almonds first thing in the morning or cereals, right? All of us do that. Hemp places to be an exact substitute to that, or rather a complement to that. One teaspoon or 1 tablespoon of the hemp seed oil, which is right in the center, or for that matter, the hemp hearts, which is literally just like the chia and flax seeds that one would consume. It's got an unmatchable nutritional profile as compared to any of the other alternatives that are available in the market, right? So think about getting protein as much as what egg would give you in your diet, as well as essential fatty acids that the body requires, whether it's omega-3, 6, and 9. They're all present in these offerings. These are our seed-based offerings, and we have a brand known as Boheco Life that actually does all the talking as far as our health and wellness nutrition range is concerned. Moving on. We've done a lot of work in the textile value chain. We have spent a considerable amount of time talking to the Birlas, the Arvinds, the Tridents, whether it is the Jayashree Textiles of the world, or global cannabis companies that work with the fiber. We are trying to ensure that Boheco is the one-stop shop where anyone can take to hemp. I'll give you a little bit of a story about this. I'm not sure whether some of you may have just been born in the 1990s, and when everyone's familiar with what linen is, right? So linen is a fiber that actually is not grown in our country. It comes in from the Europe, and there is only one company that has a lot of I would say a hold on its supply chain, which is the Aditya Birla Group. Now, in the 90s, if you remember, when I'm sure you guys don't, but just giving you a story, when any of us used to fall down or while playing get hurt, there used to be this crepe bandage that people used to apply on their bodies, right? Whether it was your elbow, whether it was your knee, and things like that. So linen, when it first came to the market, people actually thought that it could compare to that crepe bandage that everyone sort of puts when they get hurt. And look at what linen's image is today, right? So the Birlas actually turned it around so much that today linen is known as an accomplished man's fabric, right? And right from its journey for being mistaken as this poor, very cheap looking material, all the way to its premiumness or bridge to luxury kind of positioning in the market today. It's seen all those days, and kudos to the likes of Aditya Birla that have actually brought it into our country. So those are the guys we work with. We want to make sure that because linen is not a material that is grown in India, and hemp can be that, why not substitute linen with hemp? Because the truth is that the shirt that I'm wearing is a hemp shirt, and it looks very much like linen. But I'm not sure whether any of you are aware, but hemp is the fastest growing plant on the planet. It can grow in 90 days. It can grow 12 feet tall and requires 4 times less of water than cotton does. And those are the reasons why we are propagating what we are, right? Because from an environment perspective, as well as to the end user, there are benefits lined up for everybody. Moving on. We also have, as one of the properties at Boheco, something known as Hemp Fabric Lab. So for all designers, students, creators that would like to sort of have a first point purchase contact for what hemp feels like, what it looks like, if anyone wants to experiment with creating something out of hemp, this is the place to go. So each of these have their own domains. They're all online. So any of you want to check it out in further, in a deeper way, you can. This is primarily for all the designers, creators. We've got hemp and cotton. We've got a lot of blends that one can take to. We also have a B Label. B Label is our fashion brand, in-house fashion brand of Bombay Hemp Company. We have clothing for a much, I'd say, greener individual who could take to a more conscious lifestyle and make purchases other than the Zaras and the H&Ms that we're all like, we just love walking into an H&M or a Zara because of the price point, wanting to pick up anything that they have because, it's so durable according to us and things like that. But just to give you a couple of properties as far as hemp is concerned, and that is exactly what our proposition as far as this whole textile value chain is concerned is that one walks into a Zara, H&M without really looking at what the material of the garment is. You just pick it up and, because it looks good, you take it with you. But at Boheco, what we're trying to really tell people is that durability and longevity of a certain material is a lot more important than just how it looks, right? So hemp actually has 8 times more tensile strength than cotton. It is a fabric that can outlast anything else in your wardrobe. So if you do take to hemp, you will land up wearing it for 2 to 3 good years. And the best part about the fabric is actually 2. One is that it gets better with every wash. So the more you wash, it's a shirt that I'm wearing and Jahan is wearing. Both are hemp shirts. And this is probably a 3-year-old shirt. And the more you wash it, the softer it gets. And not just that, it also makes you feel cool in the summers. So there is this whole range of apparel and accessories, like even with respect to home decor and upholstery, that's there on V-Label's website. Please feel free to go there and check it out and interact with your first hemp purchase if you can. The other aspects that I would definitely like to highlight is that we've been in the market for the last 8 years now, and we've of course built this whole ecosystem of hemp where not just consumers but also different players in the supply chain, whether it is us empowering people with the raw material that want to make, say, cosmetics or that want to make their own fashion lines. We are a one-stop shop and a platform for cannabis in the country, and we wish to be the dominant players, whether it is direct to consumer or B2B offerings in the textile space, right? So we've been able to, just to talk about our omnipresence approach today, we are in about 72 to 75 stores pan-India, primarily in Goa, Bangalore, Mumbai, and Delhi. We are present across 40 e-commerce websites, whether it's the likes of Amazon. We've got a 1mg, Health Cart, Farm Easy, because the mainstay at Boheco is health and wellness. And of course, textiles is a supportive industry that we have. We make sure that we try and build a lot of business to business buyers as well as business to consumers. So this is the kind of traction that we've been able to generate in the last 8 years. We are at all these points of sale. We're trying to ensure that we have, by the grace of God, a lot of good earned PR that's come our way. The likes of Jahan and a few other co-founders have played an instrumental role as far as harboring some great eyeballs are concerned. We've been at several flea markets, exhibitions, directly talking to a lot of consumers, educating them, because the whole point of Bombay Hemp Company is to educate, cultivate, and innovate. So we've been at that for the last 8 years, and this is the kind of traction that we've been able to generate. Just a quick synopsis on the founding team. These are the guys from H.R.College that are currently working across day and night to make the hemp and cannabis system not just keep it alive, but actually drive it. And we're the foremost players in the market even today. We maintain that first movers advantage still in the country. So yeah, we've got Delzad, Jahan, Avnish, Sumit, Yash, myself. All of us are alumni of H.R.College. We can move on. Yes, Jahan.
Sure. I think Chirag, I'll step in here and I'll take everyone through the rest if you'd like.
Please, please.
Fantastic. So as Chirag, I think aptly summarized, we've managed to build a lot of expertise, because one thing we realize as entrepreneurs, it's important to acknowledge and understand that there may be areas where it is beyond your level of expertise, and it's important to find the right experts who believe in your mission, who share the same common passion, and who'd be able to guide you along the way. I'm very fortunate that has resulted in us building a very strong core team, whether it's actually having some of the top plant breeding scientists actually recruited from the government and posts from the government to help us with our breeding projects, whether some of the top Ayurvedic formulation doctors are practicing in Maharashtra or in India, some of the top legal counsels, and some of the top, I would say, young young stalwarts with great acumen in molecular biology and technical sciences, and that is ably and strongly backed by an advisory board that includes, of course, Mr. Tata, includes several other Padma Shris, as well as Mr. Tata is the Padma Vibhushan, former narcotic commissioners, heads of the Academy of Customs, Excise and Narcotics, directors of integrative medicine institutes attached to the government, members of drug technical committees with the Ministry of Health, and a whole spectrum and plethora of others as well. But really what helped us narrow our focus, and this is one of the real learning lessons as an entrepreneur, is it's important to understand that even though there may be opportunities that are ripe for you in a landscape that is early days, it's important to identify and target a few key areas that you want to maximize value and maximize growth, so that you can show investors, you can show partners and other industry players that there is growth at the end of this horizon as well. And that's why over the last 7 years, we understood, and one of the realizations we had is where old is the new, and where ancient medicine, whether it's in India, whether it's in China through TCM, or whether it's in Thailand like TTM, is gradually expanding, not just in domestic, but even in global markets, where today I think 77% of Indian households actually have at least one Ayurvedic product in your house. And if you think about it, that's actually true, because many even of the shampoos and the formulations are proprietary Ayurvedic medicines. The Live 52s of the world are proprietary Ayurvedic medicine. For example, I think Hajmola, Hajmola, as well as a few of the gums, Chirag, I think a couple of the chewing gums, the Dentoviews or other,
Happy Dent.
Happy Dent, yes, Happy Dent. Sorry, that's the name that escaped me. But a couple of the gums are technically Ayurvedic products, and it really points to a massive market. Whether we're talking at the top end of naturally the Patanjalis of the world, or whether we're talking about the Zandus or the Imamis, or a wide spectrum of others actually coming in with products based on ecology, sustainability, and social economics that really drive an ancient narrative. And as one thing we've clearly understood is that over the last 1500, 2000 years, cannabis has been, or Vijaya as it's called, is a very important part of Indian Ayurveda. Whether we're talking the 44 Rasa Granthas or the 26 Chikitsa Granthas, where the leaf of this plant is actually mentioned to help a wide array of ailments, whether we're talking digestive issues, sexual health and wellness issues, geriatric issues, pain-related issues, intestinal disorders, sleep-based disorders, stress-based disorders. It's all been recorded in our Ayurvedic texts. And it really points to foresight of knowledge, which needs to be capitalized on from a narrow focused strategic horizon as a marketplace, where today the market size is about $4.5 billion, which I'd say is about 25,000 crore, with a view to grow upwards of 35 to 45,000 crore this year end as well, which really points to a massively rising wellness industry, which I think everyone on the call has some intricate part of. But our question is, can we introduce cannabis in the household of every Indian through these common roots and common paths? Now, even from a way forward, I think I'll hand over to Chirag to help understand, even from, and I think this is very relatable and might be kind of relatable and help put things into more practical or sort of theoretical understanding for you guys, depending on which way you view it. Maybe Chirag, you can help drive that from this perspective, the strategic horizon, so go to market.
Right. So, so when we first started off, we knew that we needed to change the image of cannabis, right? A lot of people perceive cannabis as the many things that Jahan mentioned. And of course, a lot of people might be smiling right now, but, we wanted to make sure that we presented it in a way where it's absolutely legitimate. And, a lot of us used to, for example, think about cannabis or hemp in a way where that T-shirt with Bob Marley on it and just a black Raj Safari shirt is what it could be, or it could be anything to do with bhang. And a lot of us might be belonging to states like Madhya Pradesh, Uttarakhand, UP, where in our homes during Shivratri or during Holi, a lot of people consume bhang. And we wanted to also be very candid in the market and say that, hey, yes, it is a product of the same family, but it is backed by science, right? So everywhere where you see a large part of Boheco's branding is to do with a scientific molecule right in the center. So positioning is extremely key. I mean, because when we started out, we knew that we didn't want it to be a 30 years further away that another 7 guys from H.R.College would dare to start something like this, right? We didn't have to go wrong with how we positioned ourselves. We wanted to operate in the legitimate and the right, and we said that whether it is if it's a wrestle between going fast or going right, we'll go right. Right. So the whole point of being digital first, making sure that all our points of contact, whether with the customer or with anybody who knows the plant and wants to have an interaction with it, is absolutely backed by experts. So we have a Boheco life coach program. This slide essentially says that we are actually bringing on board life coaches, champions, and stalwarts in the industry of health, nutrition, wellness, dietitians that can actually form this Boheco life coach program, where anybody who wants to know about hemp and how it is supposed to be consumed, what kind of dosage, what is it supposed to be accompanied or coupled with, can actually pick up the phone or come to our portal and interact with these experts, right? And of course, our sales strategy, we have a B2C, B2B. Our target market is typically guys that are young adults and people that can actually make a purchase decision for the elder generation as well, because we're very sure that, of course, in the preliminary years and the early onset of cannabis in this country is not going to enable us to reach out to the 60-year-olds or the 55-year-olds, but definitely their children who can make purchasing decisions for them and take it to their families. So we imagine that day where a child is actually telling his mom that, hey, I came across hemp seeds and it's so good for our diets and stuff like that, right? So this is entirely on how our go-to-market strategy is. A lot of places that you can find us, a lot of brands that we've partnered with in order to propagate and move our product are right in front of you. There are also several government agencies and partners that we've aligned our goals with, that Jahan can also throw some light on, but primarily the channels of sale are right in front of you, whether it's the Nature's Basket, the Nykas, etc., or the Pharmacies and health carts. We're present almost everywhere to make sure that cannabis is the next lifestyle-based product that you can take up. Just a quick one on what the back end and the vertical integration holds for the cannabis supply chain, especially because you're a first mover in the market. The kind of quality and price that you need to control. You're getting into people's houses, and that's something that we were very cognizant of, right? When people are consuming cannabis, whether it's orally or application-wise, we need to make sure that from a quality control standpoint, we have it best. So Boheco also brags on the rights of actually having its own supply chain today, where we collect our own seeds, where we have our own farmer producer groups that are empowered through the process. We also, have several people in our factories in Madhya Pradesh, and we actually make our products. That this is a quick process overview of how the dehulling or the leaf processing takes place from crop to drop, or from seed to table. We have Boheco Life that is sort of championing this for us. It is a cold press oil as natural as possible, as raw as possible, so that people can actually take to hemp's true taste and enhance their taste buds with it. So this is roughly what we have as a process. And of course, we also wanted to give you the fact that while there are 25,000 proven uses of this one crop, we of course want to conquer the health and wellness category at first, because it probably, in our opinion, is the most value, the largest value offering that one can have from the plant. But of course, there are a plethora of other industries that can be built off this one crop, whether it is to do with automobiles, whether it is the plastic or the biodiesel, whether it's body care, cosmetics, skin care, energy saving industries. Of course, Jahan will also give you some more moonshot ideas that we've been exploring at Boheco, which can actually, and a few brands that already use hemp. So Just want to leave you with that. And Jahan, if there is anything that you would like to add.
No, I think Chirag, I think you've done a great job to summarize a major crux of the story, and I'd like to leave on a sort of a small anecdote or two as well. And I think really life comes full circle. I think I point to a couple of incidents. I think first thing to understand about hemp or cannabis is its historic use, as Chirag briefly alluded to. Whether you're talking about the ropes used during Cleopatra's time, whether during the sails and all the war imprint the United States used in World War II or Napoleon, whether the British used it in the 18th, 19th century, hemp was a key commodity right up to the 20th century when cannabis became banned for its recreational use. And that strategic value is what we always aim to bring back. I'll give you a small anecdote. I'm sure many of you have been to the Ajanta Ellora caves. But and you might have seen there's a big difference between the internal lining of the caves. Do you know why that is? Archaeologists proved in 2015 or 2014 that the Ellora caves has a lining made of the fiber of hemp or cannabis, that is tuna made out of it, that lines the internal caves, and that's why it's better maintained technically from an archaeological standpoint than Ajanta. We've actually spoken with the university that did the studies as well, and that really speaks to the indigenous historic hidden value that needs to be brought out into moonshots, whether it's taking the fiber and making graphene-like materials for batteries, or whether it's interesting avenues like making materials for shoes or the likes of Body Shop dominating global specters today. But I think the real story of how it really helped me throw back to and help me bring back full circle was a story back in 2016. Another founder, Avnish, and I were traveling across rural Netherlands. And we met with one of the first hemp farmers in the Netherlands, licensed hemp farmers who used to grow the fiber and seed. He took us into this beautiful house made out of hemp. The fiber was used to make a concrete-like material, where the entire structural, internal, external lining of the house was made out of the cannabis or hemp fiber. But at the end of the meeting, it started raining, and we had a meeting across town. And there's a town of 8,000 people, okay, in rural Netherlands. No Uber, of course, no Ola. So what do we do? He said, look, relax, I will drop you in my car. So he said, okay, great. So this is the farmer in a town of 8,000 people, okay, mind you. He pulls out a BMW X5. We sit in the car, our jaws have already dropped. He drops us at our meeting, starts raining. He doesn't say bye. He says, by the way, the fiber, the panels of this car are made from fiber of my hemp, and he drives away. One of the most thug life moments. And it does really bring back how important these types of historic lessons are and how intricately it ties to all of our personal stories, where having graduated from HR, having the learnings of the likes of Dr. Punjabi, the likes of Dr. Shani, and many more along the way, for us to have undertaken an arduous 8-year journey to eventually be back to the same table where we first began and discussing with the new generation. We feel empowered, grateful for this opportunity, and hope to have many more to continue sharing the best times and the worst of times of our story with hemp and cannabis. And I think on that note, thank you so much, everybody, for your time. And it's been a great pleasure. And of course, happy to take any questions you guys have as well.
Thank you. Thank you for the very interactive and the informative seminar. We would like to ask our professor in charge, Naveen sir, who's just joined the meeting, to address us.
Thank you so much, Jahan and Chirag, for taking out time. I will not get into formalities by thanking you all, but it is your moral obligation that you have to come back and give back to the college where you all guys decided to take up hemp and the industrial use of hemp as a business opportunity. And I remember the day when you guys were discussing all this in college. So I can proudly say that this is a startup from H.R.College, of H.R.College students, and I'm glad that they have come and inspired you all. I'm sure that the whole idea of the entrepreneurship cell is to, kind of tinker your, thinking caps and kind of making you think that it is possible. And it is definitely possible if these guys can do it. A very unique opportunity, existing product innovated into idea and being sold across the globe, and they're doing it fantabulously well. So it is definitely possible for all of you to do something on those lines. And trust me, these guys have made us proud. You would have read their profiles by now, 30 under 30, and God knows, I mean, so many awards and accolades with the Tata and everyone. So they make us feel very, very, very proud. And we are really happy that you guys are coming back to campus and helping all the campus entrepreneurs now. So thank you, Jahan, and thank you, Chirag. I hope that this association with these sessions keep continue, and we see you on the front pages of newspapers very soon now. So my best wishes with all of y'all. Please convey my regards to the rest of the team as well. They're all HRites. They were like you guys. So I feel very excited, to be honest. All the best.
Honestly, we are very, very excited as well. In fact, in the first part of this seminar, we were very grateful, and we were speaking to everybody and telling them about how your contribution and Mr. Amit Nandu's contribution, Dr. Shani's contribution, and just the fact that you gave us that canvas to explore our dreams the way we wanted to and never held us back. Thank you so much. It's really great to reconnect with you, Mr. Punjabi, and hope to actually meet you in person and rejoice some of those days that we had.
Absolutely, we will definitely have you back on campus, and
Sure.
I've also had the opportunity to meet Jahan's better half. So I hope.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, so I also hope that I get the opportunity to meet your better half also, Chirag. Yeah, don't
I'm
tell
not
me you
married
are
at all.
still.
I'm kidding.
That's why I feel jealous of you now. All the best. I leave it up to the question and answers to continue.
Sure.
My friends, they used to ask the maximum number of questions. Trust me, if you ask me what is the success of these guys, they were called as supers. Am I correct, Jahan, Chirag?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
that's
during
correct.
our 50 years celebration, they were called the supers, and their primary objective was to question on every aspect of every process. And whichever guest speaker comes, we used to kind of, this is like a hidden secret. We used to kind of have questions
Plotted.
decided.
Right.
I didn't want to use the word plotted, but since this is all internal meeting and they're our alumni, so yes, we used to plot the questions, and we used to ask difficult questions. So my friends, you should ask difficult questions. Yeah, like
Always.
let me, like ignore them for a couple of minutes. You should ask them difficult questions like, are you taken by mistake for the drug lords or El Chapo or you should ask them any number of questions and grill them, because that's what they did. And trust me, by doing this, these guys used to engage. Now what the problem is of if you ask me, from 2009 to 2020 is, we have become a social media generation where attention is more important than engagement.
Right.
So it's only attention now. My suggestion is engage. So these two are your they are your people now. Please ask them as many questions, ask them silliest of the questions, because they are alumni. They will understand कि मैंने भी कभी ऐसा
Definitely.
पूछा था. So please, हम तो घर की मुर्गी है बाबा, हमसे तो तुम पूछोगे नहीं. इन दोनों से पूछो and make the best out of it. So please continue with the question and answer. And I just thought I will drop in to say hi to Jahan and Chirag, and I'm thankful that you guys are always there for us.
And we'll continue to always be there. And it's really great pleasure, Professor Punjabi. And looking forward to, once everything is, the lockdown gradually opens and things are a little more safer, looking forward to coming to college and, really catching up with you very soon. And if not before that, have you by the office to catch up with us once everything
Most
is more
definitely.
clear.
Most definitely.
Thank you for joining. Thanks so much.
Take care. All the best. Continue, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for joining. I would request all the students to send in their questions via chat. You all are open to unmute yourself and ask the questions.
Yes, you should all ask Jahan, who was actually awarded by our college. He had the fortune to attend this one meeting where Barack Obama had actually come down to St. Xavier's College, and we had a contingent who actually went there. And Jahan has all the rounds of his videos of this one question that actually left Mr. Obama stunned. So you should definitely take him up on all the questions.
Now you know why I told you should ask many questions to them as well. They've done the same.
Wow, that sounds amazing, Jahan. Can you shed more light on that?
What
Sure,
question was it?
It's been a while, actually. I think I'm growing old. My memory is a little faded, but let me try. See, honestly, we were grappling with a lot of questions, and what Professor Punjabi said is right. The one thing they instilled in us was question everything. Because until you don't get answers in life about everything, you're not going to be satisfied. It's important not this to assume. So taking that mentality, the question was to understand, particularly from President Obama, because this was an onset of a tipping point that's resulted in 2020, I would say, from a far-sighted point of view. The question was majorly to help him understand, and I think there's a context behind this. Reverend Otis Moss, who is his spiritual advisor, actually visited H.R. College a few months prior, about 3-6 months prior. Maybe Professor Punjabi can correct me if I'm mistaken. And he really delivered an astounding lecture, but it really resonated with a lot of us, and a lot of us had questions whether we're talking about economics, bilateral trade. In fact, Afshin, one of our other alumnus, asked him a question about India-Pakistan ties that was all over the news, whether it's Sardesai, Barkha Dutt, or Arnab himself. It is all over the news. But my question is majorly kind of to help him understand how he would help balance out spiritual policy, keeping in mind the new advent of the center left and the center right wing, and how he would be able to inculcate that into more, not just theoretical policy talk from a spiritual point of view of just vision and, be good to other people, but how would you actually practically execute this? And how do you bring this messaging towards a more normalized level within American society? And as a question, I honestly think he's expecting a bit more of a softball, but happy to give him something to take home at the end of the day. And of course, I'm not the only one. Don't make me the Balika Bakra, Chirag. I think we've all been there in different places, and we've had the chance. We had chance to question Mr. Tata also, I remember.
Yeah,
when he had come
and Mr.
to
Kalam as well. We had the opportunity, and H.R. College gave us that, to meet these extremely distinguished individuals. So open to any more questions that you all might have.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything off the cuff is also fine.
To help the students, may I ask one question, please?
Yes, please.
So did you face any challenge in India when you initially began to talk about hemp as a industrial use, and how did you overcome that?
So I think that's a great question, Professor Punjabi. I think there's two parts. There's talking to the government and talking to the scientists, and there's talking to the customers, right? So I'll talk about the first part. We've done the rounds. Honestly, it would take 6 months to get one meeting, but that 5-minute meeting can make the rest of your life. That's the most important part. I remember we had written to Dr. K.V. Prabhu, a top scientist at the Indian Agriculture Research Institute, 65 mails over 2 months, and we got a 10-minute meeting with him. In that 10-minute meeting, we managed to convince him that it's worth thinking about cannabis and thinking about hemp from an agriculture standpoint. Our first meeting, I remember me and Avnish had gone. We finally realized who were the top regulators, who's regulating cannabis as a narcotic, and what we need to discuss. We are very fortunate enough, the bureaucrats who are leagues above us, top IAS, top of the top IRS guys, gave us the privilege of time of 1 hour meeting. And they said, okay, you guys have a point, you have a larger vision, and we're open to listening. And we are very privileged in a North Block. They invited us to present to different state governments and different ministries as 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds, where the first question people ask you is not about policy, but how old are you? And it is important to overcome that barrier at the start by being very kind of knowledgeable and being open about objectively where things have a risk of succeeding or failing, and what people need to be as stakeholders, because it's not an individual journey just for us. Everyone has a part to play. So from a scientist and research, regulation and dealing with policymakers point of view, that was the start. And of course now we're lock in 2-step. We know how to talk to chief ministers, or we know how to talk to the local excise guy. We're quite clear on that and clear experience. But then there's the customer side which Chirag can give, and then I think I've gotten a couple of private questions privately, which we'll jump into after that as well. Chirag, if you'd like to.
Yeah, of course. When we started off, education about the plant was a key part of what we used to do. So we used to go to several colleges or speaking engagements. And one such engagement was this engineering college where we had gone to speak about hemp as a building material, right? And one of the students just gets up and asks us in person over the mic that, hey, okay, great presentation. Thank you for the talk. If I live in a house made of hemp and it catches fire, will I get high? And, we were just stunned at that question. We were just laughing, of course you won't. And such questions came on much later as well at mostly all the engagements. In fact, even today, when we put shop up at exhibitions, first thing people come and when they want to feel our clothes, they come and smell it, saying, "Isme nasha hai kya?" And those things happen, but that's how one breaks the ice. And that's how one sort of I would say, floors them with the kind of opportunity, the kind of products, because they could never have told without listening to us or knowing about Boheco that something like that exists. One such funny instance was this one in Powai. We had close to Jahan's house, we had this farmers market, an all-day farmers market. And a lot of people were coming by, and we were selling our hemp seed products and hemp food products there. So I of course, it was really crowded, and every time 7 people came, I started pitching to them about what these things are and how they help, things like that. So after like this 5 to 7 minute elongated pitch, like a monologue that I did, there was this one pretty old lady, I would say, who pretty old, and she was really puzzled with what I was speaking, and she just asked me, "But hemp to non-veg, ne?" And I'm just like, "No, this is not ham, this is hemp, and there is a difference." So there is so much education that is required to be done, but we proudly do it because, of course, as we said, we have to lay the land for this industry to come for many years, and it's still in its very nascent stage. We're about 30 years of age each, and we're trying to make sure that we build a company and a success story that has a legacy behind it. So that's the aim.
I think Chirag, just alluding to a brief point you mentioned, I'll combine 2 of the questions into one. The question is, how did your parents react when you came up with the idea of hemp, and what is the thought process when you started the startup and how you began? Maybe you want to start off and then I'll bounce on in after that.
Of course. So I think one key point, especially from an entrepreneurship point of view, is something that I got from one of my cousins before starting Boheco, is that any venture, any idea that you have to give it a rock solid 1,000 days, right? If you're really serious about what you want to do, what you want to put in, don't second guess it. Of course, go into it fully thought through, but give it the first 1,000 days. And if you see a ray of success within the first 1,000 days, then you put your backs together, you've broken them, and you've built something that's there to last. And that's what a few of us did. And taking from that, our parents were extremely supportive, I would say. Of course, they trusted in us to not operate in the gray or break the law by any means. And as Jahan and I have told you guys that, we had the option of actually jumping and, using shortcuts and actually starting to grow hemp in an illegal way. But we said we'll do it right and we'll not do it fast, because that's how it needs to be done. There are some conscious decisions that we've made along the way, which we think has served us very well so far.
No, absolutely. I just quickly adding on to even what Chirag mentioned, especially from, I think, our parents' point of view. I think our parents have always been encouraging of us, and I think thank God, touch wood, I believe that'd be the case for many of the young viewers also who are currently in HR as well. I think the key was having that passion, belief in yourself to try something new, something audacious, because sometimes it's audacious that succeeds. But the most important thing, and I think let's address one key fact, where it's a commerce college. We're talking an entrepreneurship platform, the key behind which is monetization for profit, but doing social good, which needs to be an equal hand-in-hand relationship. I think that's becoming much more clear. Whether you're talking about there being no oil and gas companies listed in the NASDAQ today as compared to tech companies, some of which are actually doing social good that's never been seen before. I think the goal behind entrepreneurship is always seeing, if I have one resource, how can I multiply that into 5 such that it can help positively 5 different families in a significant way. And I think that is a real driver of how we are looking to think about it, because it wasn't, I'll be a little candid and colloquial here, it wasn't just a stoner pipe dream or like a hippie pipe dream. This was a legitimate idea to build social value for farmers or patients or consumers, and to think about others while also thinking about the need to monetize whatever your idea is, because nothing good comes for free anymore. Everything has a price and a value. It's important what value you are looking to create. And I think Chirag also, there are a couple of questions here. I think one question is, can hemp be used as a fast fashion fabric substitute? That's, I think, up your alley. And second is, what's our broad market share and how do we plan on growing it from there?
Right. So I think, of course, it's the very fact that we have something known as B label, the idea of B label is to choose plan B as compared to plan A, which is fast fashion, right? You walk into a Zara and H&M without noticing what contents go in your garment, you're picking it up. The whole point of launching a label which is extremely competitive. So if you, today when we go into a Van Heusen or an Arrow, we're spending roughly $3,000 for a shirt regardless, right? The kind of stuff that we do at B label is anywhere in the 2,000 to 3,000 range as well. But the one thing that's different about it is that it's going to outlast any of those fast fashion shirts that you're ever going to pick up. And it's doing good to the environment. So why not, right? So yeah, of course. So answer your question, once scale and economies of scale do pick up, it can definitely be a material that can be adopted by fast fashion brands should they want to make the conscious shift in using natural fibers and not synthetics and polyesters. So that is to answer the question as far as the material is concerned. And as far as Boheco's market share is concerned, as I mentioned during our chat as well, that we are both a B2C and a B2B company. So what we're trying to do is we have this logo, just like the Intel Inside model, we have a hemp powered logo. So it's an open source logo, which what we do is we provide anybody who wants to create with hemp, whether it's in the cosmetic space or in the fabric space or any particular invention from hemp, they buy the raw material from Bombay Hemp Company. We control some level of the supply as far as that is concerned. So what that does is invariably has us actually contributing to the whole market in a certain sense, because the supply chain is something that we control, as well as we have this consumer mind space that we are attaining through our brands in the market. So there is no formal market share percentage that has been calculated by any particular research agency just yet. But I would say that at least 40 to 50% of any cannabis sales that take place in this country take place from Bombay Hemp Company.
Right. I think there are a couple more questions which I'll be happy to take up as well. How do we get our cannabis? Like, do we buy it from farmers or grow it on land? That's a great question. Today, we work with farmer producer groups in different states to collect our hemp seed, because state policies and guidelines allow it to be collected and sold as a commercial produce because it has no narcotic effect. And we work with several FPGs or farmer producer groups exclusively to buy from them when they go on the collections. Goal is to actually cultivate the plant at a commercial scale, where we're targeting a 2021-22 horizon to begin that with the right kind of commercial cultivation licenses. And we also work very closely with state regulatory authorities to actually source a leaf, also called bhang, for different Ayurvedic formulations as well. So we've been working on building out the collection supply chains, but the next step is actually commercially cultivating this and taking it from research, from lab and sort of a limited grade cultivation all the way up to scale, and empowering farmers, whether through exclusive buyback models where we provide the seed, or through larger lease-based partnerships as well. So I think that's one question answered. The next one is, will regulations be favorable to cannabis in the future? Honestly, they already are. They have been looking up. I think over the last 12 months, 6 state governments have been in the process of creating industrial and medical regulations and policies. I think this entire media trial by fire of the, this celebrity case, I'd rather not mention and go into the details about that, has really brought cannabis to the fore. And I think there are three separate discussions to have. One is industrial hemp for agriculture, there's medical cannabis for patient healthcare and welfare, and there's recreational cannabis, which is, of course, a law and order and a decriminalization discussion. From the first two categories, the laws are quite clear, and in fact, I guess the top union government ministries, who we work very closely with, up to the Prime Minister's office, have taken cognizance of cannabis's usage, and they've understood its utility from a strategic point of view, as in countries like China, which are actually using this crop in a much larger strategic manner. India could do the same, and I think almost every political party, every bureaucratic administration sees the value in that, and going forward, that will continue to ease and be a lot more kind of active. And of course, decriminalization, there is already discussion that's happening at the topmost committee levels, which is a conversation beyond, I think, the bandwidth of webinar today as well. I think one question for you, Chirag, maybe you can help on this, is how difficult was it to change the perception of cannabis? Great question.
Right. So I think we've always been at the center of backing everything we do with research. In the very first few years of having Bombay Hemp Company doing the rounds in the media and announcing ourselves, we realized, and we did this research, that 56% of cannabis companies across the globe have a leaf in their logo, right? And what we then did is that we said that we want to be distinct, and this whole leaf vibe is associated a lot with the recreational part of the plant, and we wanted to be a company backed by science, a product backed by science. Therefore, we underwent this whole rebranding exercise where if you see us today and any of our logos or presentations, it's everything to do with science and backed by science, chemistry, the nano aspects of the plant. And a lot of even our scientific panel is extremely prepared, have actually come from great works of experience that they've done for the government as well as for the industries in the past. So positioning is number one. And to ensure that there are no cracks through the process of education, right? So when you stun somebody with a product that they can actually take to, which not just helps them, but also lives up to its expectations as the person who was selling it to you did it, that's when you change perception, and that's when you change taboo, right? Because just like, to give you an example, khaskhas seeds, I'm not sure whether all of you know that, but khaskhas seeds on any kind of pastries and things like that, when we were growing up, our mothers used to put it on our food, is actually poppy. Now, poppy is also a drug which is used in the pharmaceutical industry, just as cannabis is used in the pharmaceutical industry. So a lot of people do not know this basic disassociation. And like that, it's just the simplest sort of analogy or parallel we draw is between what we use and what's known as recreational cannabis is the difference between a tiger and a cat, right? The cat is domesticated, and that's what we try and use from an industrial perspective. But hey, there's also the tiger, which grows out of the wild, which has got a lot of THC, and that is typically what people use for recreational cannabis. John, I think you are muted.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. I think you've answered the question. There's another one about what makes you think consumers will want to switch to hemp. I think you've done a great job on that. I think one question here, what encouraged you to take a leave from a secure job environment to start your own business, which can be overwhelming at times? Great question. I think I'll start off and I'll just pass it on to you as well. I think if you don't, there's a saying, you risk it to get the biscuit. It comes down to that. Sometimes you have to dip your waters into the unknown, because it's only through the unknown and the abyss can you actually see at the other side of maybe what you're looking for. Most importantly is actually the journey that matters, whether it's success or failure that waits for you at the end of the tunnel. And I think the security in knowing that we have the platform to be able to fail if we do, God forbid, but also have the platform to jump leaps and bounds to succeed, is exactly what kind of gave us confidence, security, and I think solidarity. Having to look at 7 founders, and I'll give an example. Our first office was, it's not always been roses and butterflies. Our first office was a 100 square foot office, 80 square foot office, where 7 boys, alpha males, just early 20s, just sit and work, crunch numbers, where the office is so cramped that you're having a meeting, founders would have to leave the office so some founders can have the meeting. We used to use the common lavatories that were used by laborers and workers. We did it without complaints or without worries for 3 years, because we know this is part of the struggle, part of the journey. It's important to embrace these moments, make light of them, look around, find companionship, and that's why doing a journey alone isn't it'll only take you so far, but when you do it together, it'll take you all the way. Finding that kind of bond and that rapport matters the most. And I guess, being able to build confidence in the intangibles, not just the metrics and tangibles of what can I put on my CV, but the intangibles of what is the story I'm going to tell when an interviewer asks me what is not on my CV that I can talk about. And that's pretty much the question everyone needs to be asking, that what makes you live, what makes you breathe every single day, that you would want on your tombstone or epitaph. And chasing that legacy is exactly kind of I think how we viewed it. Maybe Chirag also might have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think age to be very direct with you guys, age was definitely on our side. the whole point of telling you, about 1,000 days, and a decision is a decision, right? There is no right or wrong about a decision you make. So while the comfort of the job and the security, etc., was definitely there, yes, but this whole aspect of thriving out of selling something out of the unknown, like imagine I'm stopping you by just walking at a flea market and telling you, hey, do you know what hemp is? And you will say, what? Don't waste my time. And I'll say, hey, do you know what bhang is? And he's like, you just think that I'm some kind of a weirdo talking to you. And then I show you around in my backyard about the various things that we've been able to put together as Boheco, and that sort of startles you, right? So that is really what used to, and what still is the one key thing that helps us go along, that we're thriving out of selling something out of the unknown, right? No one knew this could be done in this country. But the first pair of Levi's jeans was made of hemp, right? Henry Ford's first car was made of hemp. So if the globe has done so much, why can't we?
Yeah, I think that's probably some of the last of the questions we have here. I think last question is about medical and textile benefits allowed. Yes, they're legal licensed products, whether textile from fiber, whether seed products as Ayurvedic proprietary medicine or food, or whether the leaf bhang-based Ayurvedic formulations, they're all legal, licensed, and allowed. We have all the relevant licenses and relevant process in place as well. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all the questions I have sent to me from that end. Share your experience with Mr. Tata. Okay, sounds good. I think some might be curious to know. It's an interesting one. It began actually, I would say, incidentally at an event we were invited to for the launch of X Prize. I'm not sure if some might have heard X Prize. Basically, any moonshot innovations, a group of billionaires and millionaires who come together, create X Prize, and they sort of fund or they award the applications. So you guys can read about it separately. It was an event at what used to be Blue Frog and is now Toit in Mumbai in the daytime. We'd gone for the event. Mr. Tata was attending, and I think I'd gone to the lavatory at that time. And as soon as I finished, I looked around and he's standing right behind me. I said, of course, I let him wash his hands, but you have the moment, seize the moment sometimes. So I went up to him, introduced myself. I mentioned Parsi Connect, agriculture, hemp, and that caught his eye. He said, okay, that's interesting. Take my card. Why don't you get in touch with my secretary and let's fix a meeting soon. That soon took 8 months, and every 1 week of coordination with his secretary, who was now a very dear friend of ours at the company on the course of time. And very honestly, we were told and advised before the meeting, because this was at the time when he's doing a flurry of startup investments. We were told that your first meeting is not going to be with him. It's going to be with a gentleman called R. Venkatramanan, or commonly called Venkat, now with Reliance, formerly with Tata Trust, who was his right-hand man, who governed all his decisions. And I mean, absolutely bright, a brilliant human being. He knew everything about everything. So we prepared ourselves that out of 7, 3 of us will go for the first meeting because it's with Mr. Venkat, and we'll see how it goes and from there. But surprisingly, we were sitting in Mr. Tata's office, which is very unassuming, not super, like super grandiose or anything of that sort. Very, simple, like his tastes are. And it's so cute. In fact, in his office, his pet dogs sleep on the floor near the secretary, and all in the office itself. So you can go pet them, play with them. It's very cool. Very chilled out, relaxed atmosphere. And we think we're meeting with Mr. Venkat. We look in the room and it's only Mr. Tata there. And normally you'd expect, okay, this is a busy man, he sits on boards, he sits with governments, like 20 minutes. 3 of us founders sat with him for 3 hours of his time, and we ran him through everything, idea, vision, structure. He has so many questions, and he had a great sense of humor. We had a follow-up meeting where all 7 of us met him, and we met Mr. Venkat, etc. And he ate the hemp seeds, and he's like, "Oh, I'm getting high," like just joking, like with us, but just to allude to the fact that he's aware, and he's so aware that he can refer to it in satire. So that became a key mission, and he asked us in that meeting, "Okay, guys, what do you want?" I said, "What are you looking for?" And I said, he said, "Obviously investment. Yeah, definitely, I'm on for that. But what more can I give you guys?" And we're fortunate that He gave us a lot of time for strategic vision to help build out the larger vision of the company. He gave us assistance with connecting with Tata Trust, connecting with Tata Memorial Center, with whom we're doing some of India's first clinical trials. And he's been a real guiding force and guiding light along the way. But meeting with him, I mean, honestly, he makes it normalized. You may feel overawed, intimidated with his sheer basking, his sheer presence, but as you sit with him, you understand that's a man with vision. That man's got the future on his mind at all times. But the best part about him is he's always surrounded by youngsters. He's always, and he makes it a goal. I need to surround myself, and he said it, I need to surround myself between youngsters between 20 and 35 because I always need to be learning what's happening, what's new, what's relevant. Otherwise, I myself might not be thinking from a relevant point of view in the near future. And that's what's kept him young in his eternal years, and grateful those eternal years are guided. Maybe Chirag also can add some anecdotes.
No, I think the most starking point about him is his humility. He has achieved the moon and back, and he's so humble.
Absolutely. He is unbelievably grounded. I think even on Sundays, maybe he doesn't, maybe he still doesn't do it, but we've heard stories of, people just randomly bumping into him, walking around Churchgate and, Ornament Circle, having a look around. And he's a great human being, and, we hope for many, many more of his ilk, and we hope to carry one sliver of his legacy with us, with whatever we do.
Hello, sir. This is Saurav Moti Ramani. I just had a small question. So
Sure.
I'll be really grateful if you could just shed some light on your mistakes which you committed during your journey.
Sure.
Great question.
Sure. So, I mean, there have been quite a few to just sort of iterate. One won't do it, but of course, a lot of times that we were together, we've made decisions in haste, right? Which has costed the company. We've not been able to try and foresee a few things emerge, because the truth is that when you're signing off or signing up to be an entrepreneur, you have to be prepared to fail, right? And if speed isn't something that you want to keep with you in things that you can control, I'm not saying things beyond your control, whether it's policy, licensing, law, I'm not talking about that, but things that you can control, pace has to be the very determinant, and with pace you make a few mistakes. So we have made quite a few mistakes as far as taking hasty decisions are concerned, as a board and things like that. But that's part and parcel, right? Like, I mean, 7 to 8 years, you're bound to make few mistakes, make decisions that might not go in the best interest of the company, because you might not have the foresight because of the sheer lack of experience. And we admit that there is a lack of experience when you start, as somebody asked a question saying, when you're starting off at 19 and 20, you're bound to not know the cracks through the process that a 35-year-old would know. So tomorrow, if somebody of that age is coming and competing against you, you have to have the right moats to protect yourself. So you have to spend time to protect your company from falling through those cracks should somebody like Reliance come and try and put an axe on your business. So those are the things that we have thought of. We have, in fact, proactively made certain, we have worked on certain moats that exist today where not many people can just come and take over. So there have been quite a few, I'd say, wrongs that have happened, but nothing particularly to it's been financial decisions. It's been smaller aspects that we just didn't know better about.
I think, Chirag, maybe I'll be able to add one anecdote that might interest the group as well. First of all, I agree with Chirag. We don't call them mistakes, we call them lessons, because, hey, you have to learn along the way. And if you don't win, you learn. That's the way to view it. But I think one interesting anecdote is when we started working with rural communities in Uttarakhand. And we started with the FPGs, and we used to work on handloom-based textiles, handloom-based product shawls and stoles, etc. One of the mistakes we had done at the start is, even though it is the women who were the ones, and I'll refer to this role a bit later, or when the work was entirely done, essentially we contracted them out and we supported them in the collection of the fiber, processing and turning it into different products. And after they've kind of turned into different products, we helped them kind of market it and take it out. Biggest mistake we did is we entrusted the first batch of income, I think, to the men of the village. And when we went back 3 or 6 months later, I remember a couple of funders went back, we were almost booted out of the village because the men, as they do in many parts of rural India, smoked, drank, and gambled the money away. And the women were, let's be frank, they were pissed off because they did all the collection while the men chilled. They did all the processing while the men chilled. They did all the conversion into different beautiful handloom products while the men chilled. And it really gave us a deep dive view and a real hand understanding of the significance of the fact that rural India shoulders rest on its women as India's future does on its women's shoulders. And I think, it's a great tool and lesson for us of the ability to actually empower women's stories and empower women to assume the forefronted mantle in wide variety of, I would say, social entrepreneurship areas where earlier things might have failed, but it's the vision, the foresight. And I think, an entrepreneur said it himself. I can't remember. It's from the Hans Foundation, the gentleman. He said it. He said, if you want to learn about the top CEOs in the world, look at the woman of a household, where she helps run the family business, explores her new endeavors, helps manage everyone in the family, whether emotionally, whether instinctually, whether different realm. And if you really want to learn, don't learn only from the top Fortune 500 CEOs. Look closer to home. As at home is where you're going to begin to get these learnings lessons. And I think if everyone takes a step back and puts the entrepreneurial hat, they'll probably see the kind of vision that we're speaking about, and the kind of mistakes, how important, and the lessons, how important they are along the way, and how important it is, the role that women are going to play in society and economy for India's future, which is going to grow incrementally if they are empowered the correct way as well. So I think that's maybe just one small kind of incident.
One suggestion that I would make for sure, which could be perceived as a mistake made at the beginning of the journey, is that you definitely need to know if you're young and you want to start out, you have a great idea, you're passionate, and you want to realize and actualize that dream, then pick a mentor soon enough, because a mentor is who's going to forewarn you or give you a little bit of a heads up before you're making a wrong decision. So pick a mentor, stick by him or her, whoever it is, and involve them closely in some of the decisions you make, because it's general course of business to make good and bad decisions, because investments or finances and things like that, if you're running a company for longer than 10 years, it's just general course of business. But if you can actually have somebody by your side who can mentor you and you can listen to, then that's the best.
Yeah, I think I have one last question here. I think as well. What should be your biggest achievement be up to this point, Chirag? Let you start.
I think the biggest achievement is to have balanced, to have work and life balance together, right? I started off this with a few friends. So Jahan and I we've known each other since 2006. So it's 14 years. And likewise, I have a couple of other people in the team, on the founding team of Boheco, who I've known. I'm just glad that even today we can see eye to eye, we can meet with each other, enjoy, have a great time. And we did overdo it at times. So one of the mistakes could categorize as the fact that we did overdo the commitment that we showed towards the business versus our family time, etc. There was this point of time but now, because we, as Jahan and Dr. Punjabi also cited, we have a family, we have our better halves that we have to look after. We're trying to ensure that we stabilize our lives, both from a professional and a personal front. So that's what we're doing. And that's one of the bigger achievements I have sort of realized, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of Jahan as well, that I've realized over the course of these years that it is extremely important to not give up some of those very meaningful relationships that you have along the way.
Absolutely. No, I think just to quickly echo Chirag's sentiment as well. When we first began the company, I think, and even through our lifetime, one of the most important things was legacy. That can we create an institution or help establish an industry that outlives us, where one day when we may be far and gone in the very, very distant future, even hundreds of years or centuries after that, would we be able to create a legacy? Similar to how mentors like the Tatas have, and similar to many, I would say industrialists have across generations. That is, I would say the biggest achievement is being on the path to that, and being able to, see the happiness and smile on our faces of starting with 7 and now having a team of 30, but of course a larger, much larger family of stakeholders who believe in hemp and cannabis, who help change their lives. In fact, so many patients' lives have been changed with some of the products that we brought about, some personal wins and conquests also in some of our homes as well. But also circling back to, I guess, what Chirag mentioned, that accolades and achievements and all the starry spotlight becomes unimportant if you don't have the right people by your side, whether it's professionally or whether it's personally, and whether it's striking the right balance. Because trust me, balance is the most difficult thing in your life. Some days it'll be lopsided one way, some days it's going to be lopsided the other. But finding the right kind of people who understand the journey, who are willing to take the scales off when they're too much, and are willing to share the scales in a magnanimous manner without judgment when they're too much for them and you're willing to take them off them. Finding the balance of those relationships is most important. And for us to secure that, I guess, in the course of establishing a legacy would be some of our achievements, even though we've been down the GQs and the this and that. All of that pales in comparison to the fact that we know we have something for life, whether it's our personal friendships and our personal and professional relationships, whether we have people who had never thought about cannabis in their wildest dreams, believe, know, understand, use it, and be healed by it or be treated by it, and be able to empower and engage. Even if I think there were 37 participants, even if 1 or 2 leave with a little chingari or little spark that actually manifests into your own ideas, your own dreams, that's the most we can hope to do. And I think that's where our crowning achievements begin and end.
Okay, so I would like to thank Mr. Jahan and Mr. Chirag for taking out their precious time and sharing such valuable strategies and deep insights that will help all of us progress in our entrepreneurial journey. And I would also like to thank Naveen sir and all the students for taking out their precious time for attending the session. We hope that our alumni journey inspired you, and all the valuable information help you in overcoming your entrepreneurial roadblocks and achieve success. Thank you so much,
Saturday
everyone.
evening. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been a real pleasure, the platform, and looking forward to continue being a part of all of your activities, entrepreneurship. Sel, you guys are doing a stellar job. Any kind of passions you're inspiring and igniting, keep it up, because this is the HR legacy that we've all dreamed of. And, hats off to you guys for starting this program.
Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for your time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
I request
Thanks so
everyone
much,
to
everyone.
please fill the Google form shared in the chat box.